If someone comes in and they are completely a mess with all these fears and changes, I don't tell them they shouldn't feel that way. They should feel this way. It's real. They should have their thoughts. They should have their concerns. They should allow themselves to feel stuff so then they can get over that and then get to the, okay, so what are we going to do here? How are we going to help our kid be the best version of themselves that they can be?
So, how do you work with parents? Give our audience some advice or some ideas about how to
Sure.
deal with their own confusion, their own,
Their own grief, really.
yeah, grief.
Absolutely. And I have clients who are just that. They're parents of kids who are on this journey and tell them that it's wonderful that you're here, that you're having this conversation, that you're not home going online and getting into all these Reddit articles, cherry picking certain stories, but rather you are exploring your feelings. And the fact that they made the phone call, the fact that they're spending the money to be there tells me that they have good intentions. They may be confused, they may not understand. Our kids don't need you to understand them. Our kids need you to be curious and want to hear what they have to say. Let's focus on the feelings and look under what the end result is. Let's look at what's just beneath the surface. That's where the work is. Not that I like to have a pink tank top, but what that symbolizes. How would I feel wearing that versus how would I feel wearing the clothes that my mom and dad buy me that might not feel like I'm being me? Coming from a place of curiosity is the answer with parents.
Well, and when you get parents, even if they're willing to accept this, but it seems to me that parents might be surprised, shocked, not know what to do when their child is questioning or when they decide to come out.
And that's understandable.
It is understandable.
Seeking out their own therapy and allowing themselves to have their feelings, have their grief, grieving the version of your son or daughter that you imagined them to be, right? We have to give our parents time to adjust to this massive change. By not doing that and expecting that parents are just going to be, okay, whatever you say, I support, that's a fantasy. Obviously, kids should always feel supported and affirmed and loved and all those things, but it wouldn't make sense for a parent to believe one way their whole life and just to suddenly change their mind. That's not what we're asking. You take the time you need, talk to the people that you need to talk to, do some research, read some books. But when you're doing your research and you're reading books, it needs to be by people who've been through this, not by some talking head who is maybe having an agenda when they put their books together, right? Talk to people who've worn these shoes. Talk to other parents who have children that have been on this journey and that will tell you the watch outs and will tell you the benefits of what happens when you just hold out your arms and say, hey, come here. You're you and you're my kid. And that is all I care about. The rest of the stuff, we want to make sure you're safe. We want to make sure you're healthy. We want to make sure you make rational decisions that aren't impulsive. And we'll figure this out. You know, that's what we're aiming for. That's what I try to do with these parents. And again, I meet them where they're at. If someone comes in and they are completely a mess with all these fears and changes, I don't tell them they shouldn't feel that way. They should feel this way. It's real. They should have their thoughts. They should have their concerns. They should allow themselves to feel stuff so then they can get over that and then get to the, okay, so what are we going to do here? How are we going to help our kid be the best version of themselves that they can be?
Do you advise them to share those fears and feelings with their kids or to keep them more to themselves? How does that work in that environment?
It's a great question. I don't want to guide parents into putting anything additional on their kids that aren't the kids' responsibility. It is not the kids' responsibility to take care of how mom and dad react and respond to this. They can have empathy for the fact that this is going to be a lot for my family, but no, I don't think any of those things should be addressed with the kid. However, a parent is a parent. And so when we're talking about things like smart, healthy, rational decisions, choices, who we spend time with, when we come home, how we leave the house dressed, expressing ourselves is very necessary. But like all parents, there are rules and there are boundaries and there are limitations. And I respect parents feeling as though we get a say in what happens here, but we're not going to get a say where we dictate to you who you are. There's a difference between that.
Well, and
I,
safety seems like one issue too, that there's got to be a balance.
when you brought up safety, I think it's important to say when your parents or your caregivers, whoever's raising you, if you do the things that are advised regarding how we have this conversation with our kids, the chances of them doing things that are unsafe go way down, right? If we kick our kids out of the house, the kids are going to be exposed to some really dark things that can happen outside of the house. If we keep our kids surrounded by love and support and letting them know that this is where they belong and nothing's going to change that, they're not going to feel compelled to learn things the hard way because there's a safety net around them. I always tell parents, our job is not to be shields. Our job is to be safety nets. Let kids make up their minds and learn things sometimes and learn from those choices. Nothing is more educational than our own regrets. That's when we really learn.